Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my two different varieties of Manjula Pothos, how I care for them, the two different methods of growing them, plus single leaf node propagation. So let's check it out. Now, despite having 4 separate plants, I have 3 on moss poles and then 1 as a trailing plant. I don't think I've really shown these plants on my channel very often, which is kind of surprising because they are one of my favorites. These 3, so these 2 moss pole ones and this trailing plant one, they're all the same variety. They are the regular Manjula Pothos, and this one over here I got from an online shop here in Canada. I think it's from Quebec. This is the Manjula, I believe it's the Olivia or the Mint. So this one is a beautiful variety. It's got some two-tone greens and then kind of some, I don't know if that's just a light green or kind of a pale yellow. But these pothos are extremely beautiful, and just the difference in leaf patterns is pretty cool as well. Now, some of the information online says this is or does have traits of a marble queen pothos. So you can see there's quite a bit of marbling in there, and it has similar traits to the Enjoy pothos is what I've read, but I'm not entirely sure which variety of pothos was used to make the Manjula. I'm going to be using this one right here for the single node leaf propagations, which will be a little bit later in the video if you want to skip ahead to see that. This one I did recently make a video on. It was looking a little rough, gave it some water, did some troubleshooting, and it's perked up. Not looking the greatest, but I do want to propagate this one, so it's a perfect time to showcase that. Now, before I start talking about the very basic care that I give for these plants, I see this leaf right here, so I'm just going to chop this one off just so it doesn't look so crusty, like that. Now, I have noticed a few little blemishes like this right here, so I'm not too sure if this is a pest issue or what is happening here. I know I do have thrips downstairs here, but I have never seen any on these plants, and I've been spraying them down with an insecticidal soap and Endwall just as a treatment for thrips. 2 of the Manjula are back in the corner over here. I just got to weave my way through the jungle here. So here is this one right here. It's literally right in the corner. I just realized there's a little dent in the wall. And then the Olivia is way down there. So my light meter, I don't think I've ever actually tested these ones right here. So it's getting about 300 foot candles right there. I do have a Soltec light right there. And the regular Manjula is getting around, let's see, kind of around this, well, around 240 foot candles. So this is the high end of low light, which that actually kind of surprises me, because plants with higher variegation or plants with variegation need higher light in order to maintain variegation. But these ones seem to be doing, fairly okay in these higher end of low light, which is, yeah, interesting. And the other one is tucked in amongst these Monstera. Now, I know this one is getting less light than the others. Actually, it's about the same, about 240 foot candles. So now, despite these low light conditions, the variegation is just absolutely stunning on these ones. I was thinking these would be more in the 350 foot candle range, but it was actually surprising to see it was in the kind of 250 to 300. So anywhere between like that 250 to 400 foot candles would be my suggestion for these plants. And just like most other tropical plants, it could probably tolerate a very small amount of direct light in the morning, but otherwise avoid direct light throughout the day. Otherwise you're going to get some burnt or scorched leaves. All of mine grow under artificial light, so I have a bunch of grow lights. They get consistent light for about 12 hours a day, every day. They're on timers. I guess with the exception of this one, it's grown on a shelf. It does have a grow light, but it does get maybe a little sprinkling of natural light throughout the day, specifically in the morning. It's on a west-facing wall, so it gets a little bit of early morning east-facing suns, which is absolutely fine. It can tolerate a little bit of direct light in the morning. Now, if you have it only in natural light, you might have to test out your light throughout different times of the year, just because in winter, the days are shorter, there's less amount of light, so you might have to move your plant a little bit closer to a window, that sort of thing. But just get yourself a light meter. There's lots of free apps on your phone as well. Now, for watering, none of these need water today. The ones on the moss poles, I generally test out the moss. So if it's squishy or crunchy, then it needs water. So if the soil is dry and the moss is dry, then I give it water. I let these get pretty much completely dry before I give it any more water. Same with this one, it's not crunchy or crispy. The soil is still fairly damp. If you're unsure if the soil is completely dry or not, I like to use a bamboo little skewer thing. Just push it all the way. Oh, this one might be there. Push it all the way to the bottom. If there is any soil sticking to the wood, then that means the soil is moist or damp. So you can see pretty much from this line down, I can even feel moisture on the stick. So this does not need water. For the 3 that are on moss poles, I usually take them over to my bathroom. I do have a garden hose in my basement. I will spray them down starting from the top. I'll let it kind of drip down into the pot. I'll clean the leaves, so the front and the back. And then after it is completely saturated, like the moss and the soil, I will then give it some fertilizer. So I will add in some Super Thrive Foliage Pro, mix it in some water, and then I will water from the top of the moss pole, and I'll watch the water kind of drip down. Once it reaches to the pot, then I'll just leave it in the shower, let it kind of drip dry, and then I will place it back in its spot underneath the grow lights. And for this one over here, I fertilize whenever I remember to, which is not very often, so it's probably why it's not looking the greatest. Plus, it was really, really dry. I'll leave that video up in the top corner here if you want to go check it out, but this one was definitely neglected. So it is looking somewhat half decent. Got a few yellowing leaves. This one, yeah, I'll have to keep an eye on it. But yeah, this one doesn't get as much fertilizer as these ones. My humidity downstairs right now in the middle of winter is 25%. It is really dry. It's 24 degrees down here, so they could probably benefit from a little bit higher humidity, but generally they don't need a ton of humidity, so that's just a regular old pothos. These things can grow pretty much in any conditions. Now, if you start to see some brown edges or that sort of thing, it might be a problem with the roots, but it also might need a little bit more humidity. But I'm not going to recommend any high humidity. But if you go higher humidity, you just want to make sure that your temperature correlates with that, because there's a term called a vapor pressure deficit. There's many videos and articles on that if you're interested in that. So you just don't want to go like one item high, so you don't want like really high humidity and low temperature. Your plant's not going to be able to utilize that extra humidity and that sort of thing. So yeah, if you're interested in that topic, vapor pressure deficit, go check it out. Now, really quickly, I grow them 2 different ways. So one as a vining plant and one as a climbing. And I think by now it's not a secret that if you train your plant to grow vertically on a support system, whether that is a plank or a moss pole, you're going to get larger leaves. So you can see some of the smaller original leaves. With each new leaf, it starts to size up. So this is how you get larger leaves on a pothos or pretty much any aroid like philodendron and that sort of thing. So if you want larger leaves, put it on a vertical support system. Now, it's pretty common when you have a trailing plant to get smaller leaves as it grows. So you can see these are some of the original ones. As the plant continues to grow and trail, you typically get smaller leaves. And I'll show another example on a global green pothos, which I have right there. So you can see some of the original ones, they're fairly large, but as you come down, here is the latest, newest leaf. So it's just a little baby. So what they do in their natural habitat is they will kind of creep along the forest floor until they find something like a tree to grow up on. They will latch onto the tree with their aerial roots, and they will grow up the tree, getting larger leaves. And they grow towards the sun, getting larger and larger little solar panels, trying to peek through the dense forest canopy. Now, there are a couple reasons why I want to propagate this one. For the first, you can see it is pretty bare on top. So if you just cut off the tip of a stem, you're going to get new growth close to where you made the cut. So if I cut right here, I'm probably going to get a new branch or a couple of branches from the closest nodes, but this still leaves this area pretty bare. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut probably somewhere maybe in between 2 nodes, like right here. That way there are, looks like 3 nodes remaining on this section of stem. So 1, 2, 3, I'm going to cut right here like that. Woo! Now it should spark new growth at the closest node, and sometimes you'll get new growth points lower along the stem. Maybe 2 or 3 separate nodes will be activated, but this looks absolutely ridiculous. But in a few months, you'll start to see some new leaves and stems popping out through this cutting right here. Now this section of stem can be propagated into individual nodes. Every little line is a node, so each node has the capability of producing a new plant. And now I'm just going to cut in between these two nodes. So technically there's two nodes on this one. It'll grow, where's the little growing eye? So there's a little, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a small little growing eye right there. I'm going to cut this one into a single node. And then just all kind of go down the vine. I might actually leave this one because it's got a nice root. I'm actually going to place that right back in the pot, but I'm going to cut right above it like that. So this one I'm actually going to stick right back into this pot right here, kind of where it was before. Just going to dig a little hole, push that all the way down if I can. I'm going to use my pencil because that is a soil root. I'm just going to make a hole all the way to the bottom, push that right in, and then just bury it with some soil. And that will produce a new offshoot from the node, and it'll produce its own new vine. So I'm just going to cover that up. And this one, I'm actually going to leave these two leaves because this is the top cut. You're going to get new growth from right there. So this will continue on as a vine. So it's going to grow roots from this node right there. So I'm going to put this one in water. I'm going to put these ones in a little propagation box, and I might take some other cuttings here as well. There's two larger, I guess, strands here or stems. I'm going to leave one just so the plant doesn't look completely ridiculous, but I'm going to cut this one back. So again, it's got a couple nodes right down here. I'm going to cut this one right here. So it'll produce some new growths or new growth points from these nodes right here. So I'm actually just going to tuck that right back down in the soil. Put this to the side. Now I have a section of stem that I can have multiple plants from. So again, I'm going to cut all of these up, and you might be asking yourself, why do I want so many plants? Because when these plants all start their own new stems, then I can place them right back in this pot throughout the top of the soil here, and that fills in a lot of those gaps or bare areas. So that's how you can fix a bare topped pothos plant. So you can just take individual node cuttings, root them in water, and then once they grow roots, and you can put them right back in the pot. But what I recommend is transitioning them or placing them in their own pot of soil, so those water roots can turn to soil roots, and then you can transition them or place them in one full pot to make a nice bushy plant. I just grabbed a little cup with water. This is just tap water, and I'm just going to kind of drape them along the side here, and over time they will start to push out some roots and eventually some new growth points. Sometimes they will push out a new growth point while even in water. So I'm just going to put these in a bright spot underneath some grow lights here. I like to drape them like the leaves along the side just so it kind of keeps it out of the water. So that's all you have to do. This is just a cinnamon bun container. Now I have a few different varieties growing in here right now. This is a green on green monstera. You can see the growing eye is quite swollen now, so that thing is ready to pop. I got some philodendron tenus, I think they're called, and then I have a bunch of alocasia corms in there as well. So all I'm going to do is just place the Manjula node cuttings. I'm going to place them just right on top of the moss. I'm just going to push them down slightly into the moss right beside the monstera and cover it up. And I keep my little prop box right down here on a heat pad like that underneath these Sansi grow bulbs. I do have a couple other little projects here. These are, I'm just going to put my little tripod down. These are cactus seeds. I'm doing a little trial right now. One is on, ooh, I've had a couple mushrooms in there. This is a mushroom. I'm going to pull that out. One is on a heat pad, so this one is nice and toasty warm. And the other one is just beside it, not on a heat pad. And it actually has more germinated seeds than the heat pad one, which is crazy. So pretty interesting. Those little sprouts, little nuggets are
cactus or cacti.
I'm going to take these ones upstairs and have them near this one right here. But I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. I always appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye.